If you're in a marriage that pre-exists your wife's new housewife career, I think it's totally valid that you would have an involvement. Even then, I would suggest keeping it separate. But if you are an established public figure, reality star, any type of whatever, and you get some new boyfriend, do not involve him in your business.
Yeah.
And like, I have sources who work with housewives and who are PR people. And I have to tell you how often they're like, I can't work with her anymore because the new boyfriend, this, that, and the other thing, he's involved in everything. Like, it's very common. Welcome to Cocktails and Gossip, the podcast where we drink cocktails, but you better believe we're going to spill the tea. We chat reality TV, celebrity blinds, and the hottest tea from BravoandCocktails.com. And as always, it's all alleged and just for fun. We do not verify our blinds. I'm B.
And I'm Amanda. Let's get into this week's tea.
What's up, cocktailers? Amanda. I am obsessed with Miami. I don't know why the ratings are low, but I feel like all of our people are watching. I know they are because they're our people.
Yeah, if you're a Housewives person, you're gonna like Miami, no matter, even if you're just picking it up, like we said last week. You
don't need to go back. It's like
you could.
People always ask me that, and I always say to them, if you're interested in a show, hop in and watch the season. And if you like it, you're naturally going to want to go back when you have the time and cram it all in.
Exactly.
But you can, there's always context. You can always just pick it up.
Yeah, completely. Before we start talking about Miami, 2 items of business. First, thank you to our cocktail party members for another great Zoom this week.
And once again, we had like exclusive tea.
Yes. I mean, we are a network of gossipers worldwide.
And here's the thing. Do you know how we always say all roads lead to Bravo? And it's so true because so many Bravo fans have connections and so many Bravo fans are cocktailers. And we're so thankful that you come to our Zooms and you drop these bombs because collectively all of us are like, wait, what? And I always ask if I can post, and sometimes it's a yay, sometimes it's a nay, which is why we don't record them, which is why being a cocktailer is like extra special. It's funny. Something came up. What was it that started this conversation? Oh, we'll get to it when we talk about Miami. But something came up and I posted like cocktailers knew. And somebody said to me, B, can you poll and ask everybody what made them become a cocktailer? What made them become, excuse me?
Oh, I saw that today.
And that was a question I've never thought of. I'm like, that's such a fun question. So a lot of you guys are joining because my marketing skills are bar none. No, I'm kidding. But it was so funny, like people's answers. Of course, Amanda, there's a million Scandival. That was definitely like our biggest sign-up week ever. I think second to that was when we exclusively broke the Lindsay Carl breakup.
That was a big one.
But then people have random one. And the funniest thing is a lot of it is sports related. Like when we had golf stuff, when we had F1 stuff, a lot of our football, a lot of our Buffalo Bills. We have a lot of Buffalo followers, cocktailers, because there was like, their quarterback had this whole scandal that we had first, and word got out, and you guys told all your friends to join cocktail party, and we love you.
And then we've had the people who have been with us since the very beginning, our OGs.
Yeah. So one of, and I won't say, I think it's Mike. I can say the name. It's not like I'm saying the last name. It was like, I'm a founding member. And I'm like, yes, you are, Mike. You are a founding member. I loved that. I kind of want us to come out with hats that say founding member of cocktail party.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I will write that down.
Right? Because I want that hat.
I love it. That's so good. The other piece of business, in case you guys haven't had a chance to look, we gave the website a facelift and it all rolled out this week. So the idea is to make it more explorable, more scrollable, more enjoyable to read.
And Amanda, thank you so much. Amanda has been working for weeks on this to get it right. I don't know anything about this, but it's very complicated and it takes a long time. And it definitely was like her love child, and it looks beautiful. I love it. Yeah. And guys, you can always email Amanda, DM me, email me, because we're looking for feedback. So on Instagram, I have a channel and I posted, I was like, hey, what do you guys think of the new look of the website? And like, let me know what you like better, what we can still work on, what isn't good, all of that. This is for cocktailers by cocktailers. So
Exactly. And there's definitely a couple of things that we are still working on, and the feedback has been actually really helpful. So
keeping you logged into the site, which I know, and believe me, guys, it is frustrating. And it happens to Amanda and I where we click on links and we have to log in. But that seems to, if not fully resolved, it keeps you logged in a lot longer.
I have to say that is something that we don't really have control over. That's more of an Instagram thing where people are using the Instagram browser.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might have been some sort of update to the Instagram browser because I'm noticing it too. They seem to be holding on to cookies a little bit longer, which is good.
So click our site more often and you won't get logged out.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Miami. It really was a great episode. Some might say explosive. Let's start with the happy. Steve and Marisol finally get married officially. So you guys might remember they have done a wedding every year for the last few years, but it was never legal until this year. And I thought actually the way that she explained why now, which is that, they want the legal rights that come along with being married because they know they'll be together forever. And that's why they got married. I thought it was so cute.
I thought it was so cute. I know they were going slow and it didn't seem they were going far, but you know how I feel about the fact that they were riding that motorcycle with no helmets. I was having a heart attack. I am risk adverse, as the cocktailers know. As a matter of fact, Amanda was telling me about her weekend plans, and she was like, you know what? Why am I telling you this? Because she starts going about kayaks and what was the thing that scared me?
Wakeboarding.
Wakeboarding. These are not activities I condone. I feel that at our age, a kayak at a low speed with a life preserver on, I will condone.
Wake surfing is like wake surfing.
You've already been injured. I mean, Costa Rica cocktailers, remember?
True. That's true. I did get my literal teeth through my lip from a surfboard. And
I'm just going to say, over the course, you've had more injuries over the course of the 3 years than I have. And I think it's because I am more careful with my hips, my knees, my shoulders, and my head.
I will promise you two things. I will be very careful during water sports.
Yeah.
And I will not engage in any kind of risky water sports after I've been drinking.
That is definitely not okay. Do not do that. I didn't even know that was something you were... Amanda.
What? You can't go in a kayak? I mean, going in a kayak
once
after you've had a couple drinks?
Up to the waist in the water with no devices.
Okay, well, I just made you a promise, so I promise I will be good.
Okay,
and careful.
So, see, Kiki and Gertie, they're at the Stretch Lab, and Kiki is trying to advise Gertie as a friend on what the ladies, because Gertie's like, yeah, I have this beef with Julia, which we will get to that. Don't you worry. But just ahead of that, and I think Kiki was trying to let her know that it's not just Julia who kind of has an issue. And she tries to gently say, well, the ladies are kind of saying that you do too much.
Yeah.
My question for you is, do you see that with Gertie? Do you see what the ladies are saying?
So I kind of do. But I will say I see both sides, and we'll get a little bit more into the fight later. I have always liked Gertie. I've always thought even in a world where housewives are extra, all of them are, there's a lot of all about me with Gertie, which part of it too, it's hard to have the kind of business. You've got to have a strong personality behind it, right?
Yeah.
But I do feel a little like we've seen her ego go way up. And I have a feeling that is probably more what everybody is reacting to than any one specific situation. But I will say a couple of things. It really seems to me that the Gertie and Julia fight, there's a lot of disagreement on specific details. Did Julia ask Gertie to go? Because Gertie is saying that she did. Julia is saying that Gertie offered to jump in. Just like little details
Well,
like
in
that.
the confessional, Julia said that, but when confronted by Gertie, like, you asked me to come, you told me you needed me there, so I just went to support you. Julia didn't oppose that.
So my question, I guess I want to ask you the same question. What do you think?
So I think that it goes without saying that housewives, regardless of what city, regardless of what their personality is, they're a lot. They wouldn't be cast if they weren't. Some have a more in-your-face way of being, which I think that when you think of Gertie, she's very expressive with her face, with her hand movements. She can be loud. She can kind of take over a conversation, right? So, yeah, but who isn't a lot? And I personally see it, and we're going to get more into this, but I see that Julia is looking at opportunity to get closer to Marisol and Alexia. I do think that there's some truth to Gertie acting maybe like a diva on the ship. And I have to tell you that somebody I know was at the Miami premiere. It wasn't somebody from the cast. And it was actually a couple of people told me that Gertie went with her own photographer and she would only let her photographer take pictures of her. So like she wasn't doing selfies with fans, or if she did, her photographer had to take it. So it's a diva situation happening there. But don't all these housewives do too much? Don't they all think they're superstars? Think of Lisa, think of Larsa. And again, Alexia and Marisol don't have that in your face, but they certainly have it to the manner born. They're the OGs. They think they can rule the roost and everyone needs to stay in line. Adriana is so dramatic. And Julia is one to talk because I have to say, I originally found her kind of boring, never loved her as a full-time housewife, but there was something endearing about her. And I totally get the vibe now that she thinks she's a superstar. And again, we're going to get into details of their fight. But yeah, so no, I think it's a matter of what I really think is Dr. Nicole is no longer on the show. So Gertie lost her strongest ally. Dr. Nicole was very beloved by the fans. I think that Alexia and Marisol see an opportunity to bring Julia over to them and get rid of Gertie altogether.
Yeah, I could see that. I think that would all track as far as what we've seen before, which unfortunately says a lot and not in a great way about Julia.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
We see that Lisa's dad had passed. We do learn about something, a few things about her childhood, that he was an alcoholic. She finally had forgiven him, those are her words, shortly before he passed. And then she said from the hotel room that she got up to Canada, but he was already unconscious when he got there. So he passed away before she got to say goodbye, which is obviously very, very heartbreaking. And then we also see Kiki with her mom discussing her difficult relationship with her father, who it seems that she is also helping get to the U.S. from Haiti, despite the difficult relationship.
And again, the Miami wives really, they go deep. They don't just talk about their parents in passing. You really learn the whole backstory, the struggles, the difficulties, the good times. We've seen it with all of the women. I think we all felt terribly for Lisa. You could visibly see her pain. And I think it was really touching, I want to use the word, to see that Kiki is trying to use what she's watching her friend go through to inspire her to try her best to make amends with her father. And she's honest about the fact that she doesn't know what that would look like as far as her relationship with him, but that she would feel a sense of peace knowing that her children got to know him and he got to know them. And I think, we're watching Lisa kind of say that this is a regret she's going to have to carry. And I think it's a powerful thing that Kiki's trying to take the power and say, I don't want to have regrets.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather do something that isn't the most comfortable and maybe my father doesn't deserve, but I think will benefit my family as a whole in the long run.
Cocktailers, did you know that the average American spends over $3,000 a year on dining out? Well, in my world, especially when you have kids or teenagers, especially teenagers, the number can go way higher. So cooking at home starts to make a lot more sense financially. And thankfully, with Caraway, cleaning up is easy because Caraway pots and pans clean like a dream. I honestly, literally have never had to scrub a Caraway pan, even after making things like eggs and taco meat. All you do is just swipe it to clean, then rinse and move on with your life. And hopefully get a kid to dry it and put it away. Because when you're going out of your way to cook a healthier meal for your family, it really helps to know that we're also not exposing our family to harmful chemicals or microplastics. This summer, quit cooking with toxins. Over 95% of home goods on the market contain forever chemicals. Yuck. If you have been eyeing Caraway's internet-famous 12-piece cookware set, now is the perfect time to buy. You can shop Caraway risk-free, enjoy fast, free shipping, easy returns, and a 30-day trial. Plus, if you visit carawayhome.com/gossip, you can take an additional 10% off your next purchase. This deal is exclusive to our Cocktails and Gossip listeners. So please visit carawayhome.com/gossip or use code GOSSIP at checkout. Caraway, non-toxic cookware made modern. And that Lisa's even saying that too. Like, don't let these things fester. Don't do what she did, essentially. There is so much guilt that comes with loving and being a loved one of an alcoholic. I can only imagine that Lisa was going through it on a lot of different levels, with the grief, obviously, but the guilt, I wish we had reconnected earlier, all of that. It's good that she was there and went to honor him, and that she learned from her situation and is using her platform as a way to say, don't do as I did. So we get to Marisol's surprise wedding party, which was hilarious to me when she's saying to her stepson, like, tell your mommy she looks pretty.
Oh my God. Showing up with the eye patch was hysterical. But that's like Miami just is the perfect combination. You go from a scene with Lisa, headed to her father's funeral and the touching conversation of Kiki with her mom, and then right into Marisol teasing her stepson, probably half drunk with an eye patch because she has a sty.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good.
It is one of those moments too. Like memes will be made.
Yes. Gertie walks in. So awkward. She's very clearly treated like an outsider, with the exception of Kiki, but not as much of an outsider as Adriana, who wasn't even invited.
You know me, I normally I would think that it was mean to not invite her. But in this case, because it's Marisol's wedding party and they don't get along, it did make sense to me.
And I will say, going back to the main issue in Adriana and Marisol's relationship, which was Marisol thought maybe Adriana was romantically involved with her ex, and Marisol was with this ex for a number of years. Adriana denies it, but she does admit that there was a friendship and they were close, and that is girl code, so I can understand. I do think sometimes Marisol and Alexia can be a little Regina George and you can't sit with us, but in the case of Adriana, she kind of earned it with the two of them. I hate to say it.
She does. She dishes it right back to those two. I mean, I would hope that maybe they can bury the hatchet at this point now that Maricel's moved on and is happy, and Adriana seems to be very happy with her French sausage.
I
So,
mean, she's too much. She's too excited with him. Like, he looks semi-interested, and she's like, "You're so good looking. Everyone loved you." Like, I think it's the need for public approval that like makes me sad about Adriana.
yeah.
Like, she's a successful woman in her own right. She's a beautiful woman. Why does she need the other women to admire her boyfriend for her to feel validated? That always irks me.
It almost seems like she's telling herself that too. Like, I really like you, right? Right? I do, right? Like, yeah.
And he kind of seems like he's just dating her. Like, I don't see it a reciprocal, like, sometimes they come on and you're like, wow. Like with Luke and Kristen as an example. Like, you could see right away that it was very much a two-way street and he was so into her and it is reciprocated. Whereas like
Yes.
with Adriana, she's just like, ooh, he's so good looking and he likes me, so this is the best ever.
Yep. Completely agree. And Adriana too. I just think, some people are oil and water, and I think Adriana and Alexia and Marisol just, I don't know that they're ever going to be
Yeah.
close friends. Okay, so moving on to Larsa, sitting down at the party, Larsa starts to tell them about Milan with Lisa. And in Milan, they had started, as she says, like it was awkward, but then they started to kind of get along. And then we saw this scene. Is it Pline, Philip Pline, or Philip
Philip Fine.
Philip Fine. Okay. That at the show, obviously there was some shadiness, but like the both of them, Lisa and Larsa, start talking to Fabulous, the rapper. And they're like, okay, well, we've been fighting and this is what our beef is. And he is like, okay, you need to stop hanging out with your friend's ex and you need to be respectful in each other's homes, and that should squash the beef, which is like, well, duh. But like, I mean, if it takes Fabulous to tell them and they're going to go with it, then great.
They're both so unserious. It's like even when they're fighting, they still want to like kiki together, which makes me laugh because they're literally were so mad at each other. Which I will point out, it was very sweet to see Lisa go over to Lars's son and give him a pep talk before he modeled.
Yeah.
And like it's like they're fighting, but there is like, listen, they're friends so long. They're both so unserious. I mean, that's the word I have to use. Like they're both so self-involved and so vain. And
But yeah, she showed herself as a mom, just like you or I would do. If we're behind, backstage at like a big play or something that one of a friend's kid is going to be in, you go back there and you say good luck, and like, I know your mom isn't back here, but so I'm here for you. Any mom would do that to their friend's kid. That was a little dose of humanity.
yeah.
And so the other piece of, I'm actually really curious to get your opinion about this because she's telling the story, Larsa's telling the story, and she whips out her phone and she's like, look, and then Jody looked like this and like shows him the camera. Kiki is like, oh, and then a couple of the other girls don't really have a reaction.
So Bravo and the editors made it extra dramatic for us because we kind of see Lisa and Larsa like hanging out at the after party and having a good time together, right?
Right.
With Fabulous and letting bygones be bygones. But we see Lisa starting to be like, where is Jody? Where is Jody? And then we see it cuts to a black screen. It says cameras went down for the night, but the tension between Larsa and Lisa and Jody picked back up. So we're like, what happened? So there they are at Marisol's wedding party, and the girls naturally ask about Milan. Larsa says that Jody was screaming at her and that Jody was saying he didn't want Lisa and Larsa to talk anymore. Julia goes, what did his eyes look like? Which was like really suspicious. Like, girl, we know you guys had a side conversation. Obviously, Larsa was trying to insinuate that there was skiing going on cocaine. And I just have to say, the irony of the fact that Marcus, Larsa's ex, was caught doing cocaine in France last summer. And when I say caught, there are pictures of it all over the internet. I posted to my stories yesterday. So here's the funniest thing. Somebody sends me a picture of him in a very messy basement. It looked like his parents' basement. And they sent it to me because in the background of the selfie is a framed picture of Jordan, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, when they were playing for the Bulls, hugging each other.
It's a very famous picture.
So okay, yes, her boyfriend is a 31-year-old guy. Yes, we know that they're two amazing basketball players. People love them. That said, it's a little weird that he took a selfie, and in the selfie is a picture of his girlfriend's ex-husband and her ex-boyfriend's father hugging. So that's all I saw in the picture, and I was just like, what the heck? Meantime, I go to Larsa. I'm like, maybe they broke up and this is shade. But no, she has a picture of the two of them posted. He was with her live last night on Watch What Happens. So this guy has a messy basement apartment or his parents' basement and a framed picture of his girlfriend's exes. Okay, so there's that. But you guys are like, hey, B, I know you're focusing on the picture, but how about the drug scale next to him with about 5 huge bags of what looked like white powder?
I had to go back to this picture.
So, yeah, zoom
I
in.
did not see that either.
So this is current day, okay?
Yeah.
So, Larsa's saying all this in the episode, but she has one ex-boyfriend who has pictures all over the internet of him partaking. And now another ex-boyfriend. Listen, could it be a prop? Perhaps. I don't know. I would imagine he wouldn't intentionally, but his room was such a mess. He clearly didn't realize it was in the picture, what have you. Ultimately, couple of women.
Is this a Valley situation where it's everybody drinks and acts obnoxious, but we're just going to pile up on Danny about this? Is that what is happening here? Is everyone in Miami does cocaine, but we're going to pile up on Jody?
And then you kind of see the ladies go like, but then in their confessionals, they're all like, well, it could have been the flash of the camera. They're like, I don't know how his eyes normally look. So nobody really co-signs it.
Yeah.
Although the preview, it acted like they did. In the actual scene they didn't. It was really Larsa pushing that narrative.
Well, Kiki stopped herself. I don't know if you noticed that at the table. Because she says, what was he... And then stops. And I think she was going to say, what was he on? But Larsa then says to all the ladies that, that night she was telling Lisa that she doesn't trust Jody. She thinks he's using her for her money.
I wonder why Jody was yelling at her.
And that now apparently Lisa doesn't do business calls without him being on the phone, which is insane to me because Lisa has been so hurt in her previous situation with Lenny, where Lenny had all of the control over all of the money. I can't understand why she wouldn't have learned her lesson and keep more control over her business, her money situation in general.
And this isn't Larsa just saying this. They do a flashback of all of them in the Uber in Milan, and in front of Larsa, Lisa is running her calls by, they're talking business, and it's very clear that he is very much involved in her, remember, whatever business and brand deal she has, she's also a housewife. She does appearances, all of these things, and he clearly is her assistant, for lack of a better term. And this is not the first time. This happens far too often. If any housewife is listening, hire a PR person, hire an actual assistant, pay that person to do these jobs for you. Do not involve a guy you're dating. Give me a break.
Seriously.
With that said, Alexia, who we know she's got a bad picker too, but she pointed out that Larsa is bringing all of this up when Lisa is currently in Canada burying her father. Larsa couldn't table this conversation for another time.
Yeah, definitely disrespectful.
Yeah. So the whole thing is Larsa isn't wrong about how she feels about Jody. I'm not talking about his extracurricular activities. That's clearly his business.
Right.
She isn't wrong to feel like, this guy could be using her. Why is he so involved in her business? Because I feel the same way. And I feel that about if you're in a marriage that pre-exists your wife's new housewife career, I think it's totally valid that you would have an involvement. Even then, I would suggest keeping it separate. But if you are an established public figure, reality star, any type of whatever, and you get some new boyfriend, do not involve him in your business.
Yeah.
And like, I have sources who work with housewives and who are PR people. And I have to tell you how often they're like, I can't work with her anymore because the new boyfriend, this, that, and the other thing, he's involved in everything. Like, it's very common.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand where, or I get, I guess, where Lisa probably feels overwhelmed and would like somebody with some business know-how. But I am hoping that she is also looking at him a little sideways if he's like, why are you telling, if she's like, why are you telling me I shouldn't be talking to Larsa? Nobody should be controlling her on that level. And so then it really makes you question, then why does he want to be so involved in everything else?
How about this? I'm a woman who, granted, Lenny is an asshole, but he very clearly was successful in his business and did well financially and would never have the time to manage his wife's housewife career. If I'm Lisa, I wouldn't want to be with a man who had the time to manage my career. What is he doing that he has the time to manage me? If my husband had the time to run my website and my podcast, like, do more for yourself, boo.
It is
Like, you know what I mean? Like, get your own damn job.
business or whatever, but it's like, okay, if you're bored, like start a new one, dude.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, he sold his business. Yeah, okay. And Todd's rich, but rents. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love there's like a video, and I really should find it and repost it, where he like explained, I don't know, his first season we met him or second, why it's advantageous to rent over own. And he went into this whole thing about because he buys investment properties and all this. Like, yeah, if you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Stop it.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying $30,000 a month in rent because they can afford to buy, but they don't want to. Stop it.
Yeah.
I mean, when you don't own a primary residence, right? So if I own a primary residence and I decide, you know what, 3 months a year, I'm going to go to Florida and rent a bowling penthouse, but I don't want to have a second property. I can afford to just be a little frivolous knowing that I have equity in a property, but he doesn't own a property.
Yeah. Okay, Todd.
Yeah.
Julia and Gertie. So their fight happens towards the end of the episode, and you guys know, but we had shared with all of you guys last year that we had heard that Julia throws a drink at Gertie. And
oh, I have to repost that. I forgot about that.
Oh, yeah. Because remember, it kind of seemed hard to believe at the
Yes. It was one of those things that we posted and we were like, is this bullshit?
Yeah. But now we see, you know, and we saw Julia walk in there in some kind of heightened state, a little on edge.
She was with
maybe
Jody.
Has had a few drinks. Yeah.
I'm kidding. I don't think she was with Jody.
No. And then they start fighting about the cruise, which the crazy thing to me about all of this, and the piece that I am like, this is clearly, you know, they saved this drama, but it happened like 10 months before filming.
See, like, I get that Julia was probably overserved and drunk, which is why she really took it to the next level. I also feel that she's reaching for a storyline because she can't show the boys, which would have been her main storyline. And we've said that she shared that she wasn't able to show them because the adoption wasn't finalized.
Right.
I think Julia's really enjoying being a housewife. I do believe that there was some annoyance at Gertie on the cruise. And I think that she may have shared her annoyance with Alexia and Marisol, who, like I said at the top of the pod, were like, let's out her. She decided to just dive into the deep end and go for it to try to sit at the table with Alexia and Marisol, who she perceives as having power with production. And if she's in their good graces, it's good for her to stay on the show. We know that she's not as close with Adriana, which I believe was probably also influenced by them or by her feeling like Adriana's a friend of and not really in with any of the girls. So she's not a great person to align herself with. Julia's making something that doesn't need to be a huge, huge deal. A huge, huge deal.
Yeah.
We see more of her fallout with Adriana later in the season. We know that's coming. We have a video that was sent to us by one of you guys from the finale party, which went viral at the time that we shared it. We'll reshare that. But we also know that, again, without Nicole, Gertie doesn't have power. And I don't just mean amongst the women. I mean, amongst production and the viewers. I think that Nicole was a big draw. And without Nicole and with Gertie's storyline, thank God she's doing well with her cancer, but that's no longer a thing. It doesn't seem that she's planning weddings anymore. And she has a nice, happy, healthy home life. So that can't be a storyline. So I could see Gertie, and we did hear that there was talk of her becoming a friend of. So ironically, this whole drama may have solidified a full-time spot for her this season.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see Gertie being nervous of being demoted to part-time or not being asked back in favor of someone more with more going on. Because when you have a normal life, which is why maybe they think she does too much, because she does too much to kind of be noticed, because otherwise, what are they going to talk about? Russell's awesome. Her boys seem happy, healthy, well-adjusted, and she doesn't have really a career to follow as of right now.
I do think it's interesting to follow the post-cancer journey as well, because I will say that it's interesting because I think having had a good friend who went through a very, similar situation, the road after cancer is long and there's so many twists and turns because there's the whole reconstruction. Gertie's like, I'm gonna take some fat from my back and put it in, but and then the amount of surgeries that people have to go through. And I had a friend, like I said, who went through this, and she ended up getting this terrible infection from the expanders, which she was putting in, and in order to do the reconstructive surgery, ended up being back in the hospital for days. And these things, everything makes you scared again, right? And everything brings back the bad memories. And so I don't know, maybe the majority of viewers don't find that interesting, but I think it's a really interesting story to tell because it's a story that doesn't get told much, right? There's I have cancer and God willing, I no longer have cancer, but then it's all of the stuff that happens afterwards doesn't really get discussed. So it's good to see that there's a spotlight on that.
I agree. I don't think production would agree.
Yeah. It's probably a lot of men. Okay, so Adriana, speaking of her from earlier, I really felt for her when she said in her confessional, not only did Julia not tell me first before she told everybody else about the boys, but Julia let Alexia see the boys first. And I was like, wow, because when there's something big going on, your best friends know before you're telling everybody else. And so Julia really kind of broke that.
Julia's whole character is being called into question because I agree with you with that. But something that I totally forgot to mention when we were talking about the blow up between her and Gertie was that after she threw the drink on Gertie and Gertie was like, okay, gloves are off. She was like, Martina was on the boat and you guys had a fight and that's why she left. And Julia said before that it was a cancer situation. So okay, that's very shady if you're saying something was a cancer situation, but it was actually a marital fight. 1, 2, Gertie said, and you have the nerve to say something to me. You got a facelift in New York while Martina was getting chemo.
Yeah.
And they asked Kiki on Watch What Happens Live last night, and Kiki said it was true. Now, I'm just going to say this. I'm all about the facelift. I hope to be able to afford one day. With that said, when your spouse is going through chemotherapy, it probably isn't a priority for you to get a facelift for the upcoming season. So I think what Gertie shared between she said it was a cancer thing, not going on the cruise, and Gertie was like, no, it wasn't. You guys had a fight, and you got a facelift while your wife was getting chemo, and you basically just ditched Adriana because you're like, okay, she's not a big player in this housewives game, and I like being a housewife. So back burner her as per Alexia and Marisol's advice, and back burner Gertie. So I never really found Julia interesting, and now I think she's a bitch. So bye.
Yeah. I don't know how you spin that. That's not just a bad look, but I think a terrible way to treat your spouse.
Yes.
So I think we can all agree on that. Okay. Did I just hear you open another drink? I am getting really jealous.
I'm drinking my Surfside.
I am drinking water. And
listen, my kids had their last day of school. I have No more end of the year obligations, and mothers and fathers everywhere can feel what that is. I mean, I still do have like packing for camp and all that shit,
Oh, yeah.
but I don't have homework, assignments. I don't have to take time off of work to go to like the
It's the
15th end
official
of
start
the
of
year.
summer
Yes.
for, yeah, the kids' last day of school. By the way, that was not judgment. That was jealousy.
Oh, no.
Because
You
I
still
was,
have to drive kids later. I know.
I am, no, and actually I don't tonight. And that's why I'm like, this is why I need to get a mini fridge in the office. So when I
Text
hear
your
you,
husband and tell him to bring you over a beer or
if he were only home and
Oh.
the dogs were no help.
That's
Okay.
why I don't have one, because like eventually kids grow up old enough that they can bring me my hard seltzers.
Yeah.
Dogs never do.
No, the dogs, they really don't, but they're darn cute. So, Next Gen NYC, watching the show this week, thinking about all of the intel, because we've gotten quite a bit about that show, but there was one piece that said, you're going to fall in love with Ariana Bierman. She's the breakout star of Next Gen NYC. And you and I are both we were very skeptical about that. But now that we've seen her in a few episodes, tell me what you think.
I love her. She has the star quality of Kim with a more level head, but she's not afraid to back down. Like the fact when Ava made that comment and it got back to her and she just barreled over and she was like, what the hell? And it wasn't in a mean way. It was very honest. She didn't back down from it. And not for anything. Ava Dash, so they're all the same age. Ava Dash, to me, would be intimidating. Whether or not her father is currently bankrupt, she is hip hop royalties. She is fashion royalty. She is a mover and a shaker in the New York City scene for people that age. So Ariana is new to Manhattan. She's just getting to know these people, and she wasn't at all intimidated and just went over and handled it. I really was like, this girl is good. I kind of agree with Charlie and that when he said she's unexpectedly really lovable. I don't agree that when he says he wants to bang her, it's like, Charlie, have a little bit of couth. Is that the word, couth?
Couth, yeah.
Couth. I don't know if unexpected is the right word, but okay. Like, G is fine, but she's not all that interesting. Ariana's interesting. Mm-hmm. She has layers to her, and I'm just really enjoying her.
Well, and unpacking that whole statement about Ava saying, well, I wouldn't expect you to have a fashion line, which was totally a dig. And Ariana was right to stand up for herself. Like, who can't have a fashion line these days? Because Ariana has a following. I'm sure she's growing it quite a bit. And she also has a show. Why couldn't she? And if anybody's going to kind of figure it out, I can see her doing it, because I agree with you. She does have this kind of star quality, but without the delusion, right? She seems to have her feet pretty firmly planted on the ground. And the other thing I really like too is that she is not letting her boyfriend pay for everything, that she wants to contribute on the apartment and that she wants to work and she wants to do these things. So
she's being really smart, because you can't hitch yourself to something that might not work out. And it also makes her a more honest person, because she doesn't just need to be with him because he has money. It also was so honest when she said, like, to, I believe, Riley in the bathroom, she's like, I'm just trying to like put something out, like a streetwear line. Like, I have bills to pay. I have to help my parents. Like, why the hell would she talk shit about it? Like, what does she know?
Yeah.
In other words, she's like, I'm not claiming that Vogue is going to be calling me up to do a spread, but like, why can't I make some sweatshirts and some jeans and some streetwear? Like, shut the hell up, Ava Dash. And also, granted, which we now know because it's come out that Dame Dash is not, very weird, because he presented himself as like this big top dog still while they were filming. And then August 2024, if you Google it, he announced he's bankrupt. So that was a little odd timing. But in Ariana's mind, she sees her as the daughter of a famous, wealthy fashion designer and a famous, wealthy rap mogul. And so she's like, you are going to knock me for trying to make some sweatshirts and make a few bucks to help my parents and myself?
And how ironic that turns out Ava and Ariana now have something in common,
Yeah.
you know,
Should
with
for a good second season.
because I looked it up. Damon Dash has a network worth of $100,000.
Which, what even is that?
Yeah, like
He can't own a condo in New York because nothing in New York is worth
oh
$100,000.
of course not. Yeah.
I do believe Rachel Roy has money, so she may not be in exactly the same situation. But to be fair, I really don't know much about Rachel Roy, so maybe
Yeah.
I'll...
Okay. So, and I loved Ariana's line. She was like, get, what was it? Ava with the bitch ass attitude, which was
Yes.
clearly a reference to Becky with the good hair.
She said it in the same cadence too. Like,
Yeah.
it was perfect.
It was good. It was good. Okay. So we do have a little more tea about Next Gen. So a couple of things that we've gotten. Subject, Next Gen NYC's Peacock expansion. Anon, please, and all is alleged, but heard this from someone reliable at Peacock. Hearing that Next Gen NYC Season 2 is happening and moving to Peacock. There's also talk about launching another city. LA and Miami are in the mix, but weirdly, London has also come up, which, my aside, we have been hearing that. It says, I'm not sure who would be in it, but it's being floated. As for NYC, it sounds like most of the cast is staying, but there might be a few changes. Nothing drastic, just a bit of a shakeup. Also hearing whispers that a couple of people who dropped out last minute for season 1 might finally show up this time. And it says, in parentheses, Ming Lee Simmons. Not confirmed, but it's definitely being discussed. Expect Next Gen NYC Season 2 to start filming in the early fall. And then, yeah.
Just to add on to that, Ming Lee Simmons is doing a reality show with her mom, which I guess doesn't preclude her from popping up in a few episodes of this. Yeah. But then let's read the next one because this. So, by the way, okay, wait, read the next one and then I'll say it.
Okay. It says, I could totally see Next Gen LA with Noelle Robinson, who is
Cynthia
Cynthia's
Bailey.
daughter, Sophia Umansky, Kyle and Mauricio's daughter, Amelia Gray Hamlin, Lisa Rinna's daughter, Alabama Barker, who is Travis Barker and Kourtney Kardashian's stepdaughter, Dixie D'Amelio, Mason Cibrian, who is Brandy Glaile's son, Gavin Nassif, who is Adriana Malouf. So I'm adding who these people belong to, by the way. Nicholas Dubrow, who's Terry and Heather Dubrow's son, and a few more familiar influencer faces. LA is the Nepo baby capital, so I picture this as a true all-star cast. Unlike Next Gen NYC, which casts some randoms like Georgia and Charlie, the LA version would most likely focus entirely on well-known names or kids of celebrities, but it's coming soon and will be on Peacock along with NYC Season 2, I assume.
Okay, I have so many thoughts. First, I want to say we received both of these emails before Cynthia Bailey and Adrian Malouf were on Jeff Lewis Live, and they said that both their kids were approached. Bam. I was like, okay, so these emails have legitimacy. And I also would like to point out that all of our Next Gen emails from when we first heard they were filming have been truthful. I'm not saying every word and every person mentioned was on it because we know that those things change, but they all lined up. So I trust this intel. The other thing I want to say is I'm going to put some respect on Charlie and George's names. LA and New York City are very different places, okay? So while this email says randoms like Georgia and Charlie, see, in LA, you're legit if you're a Nepo baby. In New York City, you're legit if you're born and raised in New York City and are either successful or the child of somebody wealthy, right?
Yeah.
Because celebrity, while it's a thing, I mean, we know this from Gossip Girl. Somebody like Charlie, who's the son of a hedge fund and went to all those fancy private schools, is on the same tier as Ava Dash or Riley Burris because in New York, it's the financial capital of the world. That is highly valued in the way that LA celebrity is the most highly valued thing. So I don't want to say that they're randoms. I think that it's just a matter of two different cities and different things working. I'm obsessed with the LA idea. obsessed with it. I think it's awesome. I'll take any of these names given. London, yes, please. Like, uh, do you know how cool it would be to watch 20-somethings in London? Because I have no freaking idea. Like, we know about New York. We know about LA because we're American. So, like, we know, okay, LA is going to be the celebrities. New York is going to be like the hedge fund kids, the artsy kids, the celebrity kids, right? What the hell is London going to be? I want to know.
Hopefully, we've got some royal adjacent people. But I also think what I find to be so interesting about Georgia is that she's really struggling and working hard to make it. And that is a story I never get tired of watching.
But that's the story of New York City. And
Right.
in the same way that, like, see, LA has that story, but in LA, the culmination is that you're a successful actor. In New York, the culmination isn't always wealth, it's status, right? So the fact that Georgia, who grew up in New York City, middle class, it's like the boyfriend on Gossip Girl, Dan. Like, the fact that he went to that school on scholarship and was able to be at the parties with those kids, he was one of them. So, like, that's what it is. Whereas, yeah, so she is very much a New York story.
I like it. And, it's all, you mentioned that we've been getting a lot of stuff on Next Gen. And I want to remind you guys, like, we also got an email saying that NBCU is really like looking at Next Gen as the next big Housewives franchise. So,
Yes.
of course, they're going to move on and build on the success of NYC, and then I think LA does make sense, and we have been hearing London. So,
Listen.
for other reasons, seeing this, like seeing these people figuring life out and getting into their careers, starting their companies, all of that stuff, I think is interesting no matter what city we're in.
Bravo is also a business. Peacock is a business. So let's look at the network. And I'm not talking about ratings, right? I'm talking about whom on their shows has the most success in the Bethany kind of lane. It is Paige. It is Kyle. It is Craig. It is Ciara, Amanda Petula, because they're of a younger generation it is Lindsay, that has figured out how to monetize social media. You don't see the Dorindas, Teresas doing that because it's a little bit more foreign to them. You see them doing their appearances and stuff, these brand deals and all of that. So long as the network is getting a cut, they're going to focus and put their energies and monies into these kids like Ava, like Ariana, who are going to create brands that they're going to get a cut of.
I completely agree.
Business, I told you guys this before. One of my sources is like, always follow the money. And their feeling on the Next Gen thing is exactly what I just said. Like, these kids are profitable.
Absolutely.
These kids, if you get a cut of one of these kids' podcasts, who's listening to podcasts? My dad doesn't listen to podcasts. My aunts who are in their 50s and 60s aren't as inclined to listen to podcasts. Kids,
it's people
don't even turn on the radio. Exactly. And so if you get a cut of Ava and Ariana's podcast, you're chilling. Bravo, the network, I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So this is all long-term. Everything evolves, and I think that this is where it's going. And I think that there'll always be a place for the housewife shows, of course, and there'll always be people on the show, like Bethany, who do it. But it won't be like Summer House, where essentially everyone on there now, West, Jesse, Paige, I mean, like every one of them has monetized in a way that also younger people, yes, Nepo babies have some establishment, but younger people, like a lot of the housewives historically have had successful businesses like Vicky, where Bravo wasn't entitled to a cut.
This is making my mind race on a couple levels. One, interesting the timing of when Paige announced her new brand right after.
And side note, I hear she's not interested in a spinoff. So my feeling on that, I think that girl has so many options being presented to her. And I think that she loves being on TV. I don't believe she's going to want to do a reality in the way of them, like seeing her real inside track life. That's my feeling.
Yeah. I agree. The other thing that also kind of underlines this for me is I was on Peacock last night and just like looking at some of the previews, and they're doing a show for Love is Blind, but the people who like after the life. And so they all live in LA and there's like a reality show, and they show them in the preview going to something about her. I'm like, duh, that makes sense. Of course they're going to continue to promote something about her because I'm sure there's a Bethany clause there.
And Ariana said when they asked her, would she be on the new Vanderpump, like the spinoff with the new kids? She's like, listen, am I filming a scene with the new kids in the alley? Absolutely not. She goes, but they want to come over to something about her for lunch. Will me and Katie be there and serve them the sandwiches and chit chat with them? Yeah, why not? You know,
Of course.
By the
like
way,
a smart businesswoman.
because I think we're going to save the Valley in Atlanta for cocktail, but I have to touch on this. Schwartz and Lala, see this?
Yeah.
They're friends. We all know this. He was recently on her pod or vice versa. And the clip starts circulating because she said that if she had to, I don't know if it was like pick a baby daddy or whatever, she would pick him because he's nice, whatever. And he was like, oh, you know, like I consider you such a good friend. Whatever. They had a nice little chat. And you could see they're both like enjoy each other. So somebody writes in the comments, they come to my cafe all the time. They're seeing each other, and he always picks up her check. And I'm like, okay, first of all, I highly doubt that they're together all the time because they said we don't see each other that much, but when we do, it's always the best time. And if somebody were to spot them at a bistro, Schwartz very much seems like the kind of guy that would pick up the bill for his friend if they had a whatever lunch.
Yeah.
My question is, okay, I don't hate the idea of Schwartz and Lala. I think he likes a strong woman. And I think that maybe Lala hasn't publicly dated anybody since Randall. And I think that maybe Lala would be open to dating somebody softer.
I'm just sitting here in my head trying to picture them kissing. I'm having a hard time with that. Not because I don't, and I'm also thinking, I'm like, does this break girl code? Which,
Well, so that was like when I polled it. And a lot of people pointed out her and Katie aren't. I think in a way, I think it more breaks, like, I think it's more messed up on Schwartz's behalf to go with Lala. I think Lala and Katie were at their best moment friends. They were never tight. And certainly now they don't speak. I think for Katie, it would be like, really? Like somebody from our group? But Katie is completely moved on and very much in love with her new boyfriend.
right.
So it would kind of, I think it would cause her and Schwartz to not really have much of a relationship, but I don't think that Katie would be heartbroken, if that makes sense.
I was going to say, if Katie gave her blessing, then I would say it's all on.
I don't know. So much as give her blessing. Let's not get crazy.
Who knows? Who knows?
Who knows?
I don't think Lala would ask for it.
But do I think they're actually dating? No, because a lot of you guys are asking after I reposted that comment. No,
Yeah.
I don't think they're actually dating. I don't know if Lala would be interested or if Schwartz would be interested in dating Lala seriously. But I'm saying I don't think it's the worst idea. And I'm totally expecting all the DMs saying that I lost my mind, but I don't know.
Before we sign off, I did want to address one more thing that I forgot to talk about when we were talking business at the top. We put in the newsletter last week, hey, everyone's talking about Love is Blind on social media. Is this something that we should be talking about? And I have to tell you guys, we got more no votes than yes votes, which I was sort of relieved once I learned how much catching up we were going to have to do.
I don't do dating shows. Like I did Love Hotel, but that's different. I don't do dating shows with people I'm not already invested in.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that they're legitimate. I understand the draw and why people like them, but like I never watched The Bachelor. I watched like the first Trista and Ryan. I actually think I just watched the Bachelorette one. At this point, like 20 years into it, to me, it's just people who want to get on TV. And I can tell you that gorgeous bartender I met in Nashville, shout out to Mitchell. He said to me, I was like, why wouldn't you do reality TV? And he's like, the only things I've ever been approached with are Love Island and Bachelor, like all those kind of things. because he's so good looking, obviously. He's like, and I'm not really interested in that because I'm not looking to meet somebody that way and whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I understand. I stopped watching The Bachelor. I liked Bachelor. I liked Bachelor in Paradise. I still love Love is Blind, and definitely I'm very into that show because it is very different.
It is. I watched the first one and like I've watched the you know what I do with that? I watch the last end episodes because I kind of like the end to see who they pick. Like I watched a couple of the beginning and then a couple of the end. I don't mind Love is Blind.
Do you know though? I don't think I've told you this. My like new favorite show that is not Bravo is Love on the Spectrum.
So many people have recommended that. I'd be down to get into that. After
I
I
watch it with
binge
your
The Gilded
kids.
Age.
There's like a little bit of sex, like a little bit of sex talk, but like very little. It's very wholesome, very sweet. It's literally the show that like we turn on after we've watched something scary or if we want like right before bed because it's just such a sweet, it's such a good show. And The Gilded Age, you got me. I'm going to start it.
No, I'm obsessed.
You've gotten me hooked.
Like literally, collectively, my family, my husband and my kids were like, wait, there's another show? Because, you know, I watch so much Bravo. I'm like, I will find time for it. I swear it won't cut into our family time. But thankfully, my husband watches a lot of sports and my kids have their stupid videos they watch. But you know what I'm watching with my daughter is the new season of the Dallas Cowboys because she loves, you know, she loves cheerleading and she's a little cheerer.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what other show just came on that I know you liked too is Ginny and Georgia.
Love. I watch. So my daughter and I almost said her name are like alternating. One night we're doing Dallas. I'm only a couple episodes into the Ginny and Georgia. I'm not loving it. I don't want to spoil it if you guys haven't started, but it's kind of like her being in the house all the time is a little
Ah, okay. I haven't watched it. I kind of forgot.
And I love her, the actress. Like she's just so cute and that big smile and she's so funny. But I don't know if this is perverted, but Ginny's boyfriend, I can't take him. He's so cute. How old is he?
Oh,
he's so freaking cute.
Ah, okay. That's another one.
He's 18.
My daughter started watching it without me. I'm like, ugh.
I know. They're like old enough to do that now.
I know. That little rebel.
We love
thanks,
guys.
everybody.
And please keep the feedback coming on the website because the whole point is to make it like where you guys want to hang out.
Exactly.
Till next time.
Bye.
What's up, cocktailers? We want to thank you, as always, for listening to Cocktails and Gossip. Because of you, we've hit some amazing milestones, had some hilarious conversations, and have grown a truly amazing community. If you haven't already followed our podcast, hit the follow button in the top right of your Apple Podcast player, the follow button under the show logo on Spotify, or the subscribe button on Google Podcasts. We thrive on you, our audience. So make sure to tell all your gossip-loving friends about us too. And if you want to get all the tea, join our membership cocktail party by going to bravoandcocktails.com/join. Our members get access to the exclusive tea we post, the weekly podcast without ads, plus another additional bonus podcast every week. And of course, members also get to join us on our monthly live cocktail party Zoom, where we talk about the latest tea and even share tea that's just too hot to put in writing. Last, but maybe best, our members get access to the Cocktail Party Discord, where you can chat with Amanda, me, and all of the other cocktailers as well. There are always some great combos and hilarious comments happening in Discord. Thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate you.